Hey there, have you ever reached the end of a huge push, delivered the project, closed the deal, finished the dream, and felt strangely empty instead of proud? You gave everything, effort 10, energy 10, and then silence. That's the space few people talk about, the uneasy quiet between pushing and posing. Your body wants rest, your mind whispers, keep going. You fear that if you stop, momentum will disappear. Here's the truth. Momentum isn't lost in a pause. It's lost when we refuse to recover. In this episode of The Strategic Thinker, we'll explore how to pause without losing progress, how to rest in a way that restores clarity, creativity, and drive. You'll learn what science says about real recovery and how to design breaks that renew energy instead of draining it, and how to return stronger after a period of rest. If you've been moving fast and feel your focus thinning, this conversation will help you rebuild rhythm before burnout breaks it. Welcome back to The Strategic Thinker, or TST for short. If you're a regular listener, thank you. Your support truly shapes this community. And if you're here for the first time, I'm glad you found us. TST is a sanctuary for your mind, a calm place away from the noise where you can slow down, think deeply, and reset your direction. Here, every conversation is designed to help you accelerate your path to greatness on your own terms, at your own pace. So wherever you are on your journey, I hope this time gives you space to dream, reflect, and build the next chapter with purpose. I'm Alan, your host, and today we are exploring strategic breaks, the intentional pauses that protect your progress and propel you to the next milestone. Now let's dive in. Some days blur into each other. You wake up, reach for your phone, and before your feet even touch the floor, your mind is already sprinting. A few quick replies to overnight emails, a scroll through updates, messages, notifications. It feels productive, like you are already ahead. But an hour later, you haven't really begun the day. You've just spent your precious energy reacting. That's how the myth begins, not with a crisis, but with small habits that keep us in motion without direction. I've had those days too. The ones filled with back-to-back meetings, urgent messages, and an ever-growing to-do list. Every hour feels full, but not fruitful. By the end of the day, you can't name one thing that actually moved the needle. Have you felt that lately? You worked nonstop, didn't have a moment to breathe, yet somehow, it doesn't feel like you achieved much. Now that's the myth of constant motion. We mistake activity for accomplishment. We confuse responsiveness with impact. We fill every gap in our schedules because silence feels suspicious, as if stillness means we are falling behind. In a culture that celebrates hustle, rest can feel like failure. If a meeting ends early, we check our inbox. If a task finishes faster than expected, we open another tab. If we pause too long, we reach for something, anything that keeps us moving. But constant motion has a hidden cost. It fragments focus, it dulls clarity, and it replaces strategy with reaction. You start the day with intention, but by lunchtime, the day has taken control of you. You become efficient at running in circles. Here's what neuroscience tells us. Our brains aren't built for continuous acceleration. When focus fragments, performance drops. Not because we're lazy, but because we are overloaded. It's not time we are losing. It's rhythm. Think of a great musician. They don't play every note faster to sound better. They play with timing. They leave space between the notes. That's what makes the melody breathe. In our work lives, we've forgotten the rests. We treat pauses as indulgence instead of maintenance. We fill silence with noise, and in doing so, we lose the very clarity that makes our effort meaningful. When I finally saw that pattern in myself, those packed days that ended in a quiet sense of emptiness, I realized it wasn't about managing time. It was about managing energy. Because busyness doesn't build momentum. Rhythm does. Momentum isn't just forward motion. It's a ninth motion. It's direction multiplied by energy. And when our energy scatters, direction doesn't matter. So maybe the goal isn't to move faster, but to move more consciously, to create space between the notes. That's where your next idea and your next level can breathe. So, have you been staying busy or moving meaningfully? After one of those nonstop days, I once caught myself opening my laptop again at 10 p.m. Not because something was urgent, but because stopping felt strange. It made me wonder, why does our mind resist rest even when our body craves it? That answer lies in rhythm. Human performance runs in natural cycles, waves of focus and fatigue that rise and fall about every 90 minutes. Scientists call them ultradian rhythms. During each cycle, our brain can sustain deep concentration for about an hour and maybe an hour and a half before attention drops. But most of us push past that deep, especially the high achievers. We override the signals with willpower, caffeine, or just one more task. And then we wonder why everything feels heavier, slower, and duller. It's not weakness, it's misalignment. Recovery isn't the opposite of effort. It's the partner of effort. It's the part that allows effort to continue. When we pause, even briefly, our brain shifts into a different mode, known as the default mode network. That's the system that activates when we are not focused on a specific task. It's the quiet background process that sorts information, connects ideas, and makes meaning from the chaos of the day. And that's why our best ideas appear in the shower, on a walk, or just before sleep. Your mind is reorganizing itself, finding patterns that focus alone can't see. The key is contrast. Our brains thrive on it. The shift from focus to unfocus, noise to quiet, doing to being, that contrast is what creates recovery. Einstein knew it. When he was stuck, he played the violin. Bill Gates had his think weeks, alone in a cabin, reading and reflecting. Pixar built sabbatical programs so their artists could step away, recharge, and return renewed. Different approaches, same principle. Renewal through contrast. Because creativity doesn't come from constant output. It comes from oscillation. From alternating tension and release, action and reflection. Here's another insight from neuroscience. When you rest, now truly rest, your brain consolidates learning. It's like pressing save after writing a long draft. That pause hardens the progress. Without recovery, your effort doesn't stick, it just scatters. That's why I call rest the quiet multiplier. It magnifies what you've already done. So recovery isn't retreat. It's technically renewal. And if you want to think strategically, lead wisely, and create consistently, you need recovery the same way an athlete needs sleep. Not as a reward, but as part of the performance itself. Because the difference between burnout and brilliance isn't talent or discipline. It's hidden in rhythm. So, for you, what kind of rest actually restores you? And what kind only numbs you? If recovery is a science, then renewal is the art. It's one thing to understand why breaks matter. It's another to know what they should feel like. A strategic break doesn't just stop motion, it restores direction. It renews energy, it widens perspective, it reconnects purpose. And that's the test. If your time off leaves you restless, anxious, and more tired than before, it wasn't renewal, it was escape. Escape numbs, recovery renews. So when I first began experimenting with strategic breaks, I treated them like pit stops, quick, efficient, and followed immediately by another sprint. It worked for a little while, but something still felt off. Because rest isn't measured in hours. It's measured in presence. You can spend the weekend offline and still carry mental noise, or take a 10-minute walk and return lighter, clearer, and ready to create again. It's not duration that matters, it's the depth. And here's what renewal usually feels like. Energy feels steady, not spiked. You're not bouncing between exhaustion and adrenaline. You move with calm focus. Ideas return unforced. Inspiration doesn't need chasing. It starts to surface on its own. Perspective widens. Problems shrink to size. Priorities realign themselves. Purpose reconnects. You remember why the work matters, not just that it's due. When those signs appear, you are not escaping the work, you are returning to yourself. That's what reflex stage looks like in real life. Not judgment, but curiosity. You are not replaying mistakes. You are tuning your instrument before the next performance. Every great creator and resilient leader understands this rhythm instinctively. They rest before they break, not after. Even Walt Disney did it. After Snow White, a global triumph that nearly bankrupted his studio, he didn't just rest. He shifted from films to worlds, from sketches to parks, from animation to imagination in 3 dimensions. That wasn't a pause in ambition. It was a redirection of energy. That's what a strategic break should feel like. A bridge, not a boundary. It connects what was to what's next. When you pause intentionally, your mind does invisible work, connecting dots you didn't even know were related. You return with sharper intuition, deeper calm, and sometimes a brand new question to explore. I often tell clients and colleagues, you'll know your break worked when you come back curious, not guilty. Because guilt belongs to escape, and curiosity belongs to renewal. So as you think about your next rest, ask yourself, does this choice refuel my energy or just distract me from fatigue? Does it reconnect me to my purpose or just simply help me forget how drained I am? Now that's the difference between running away and rising again. Here's the question that stops most people. If I slow down, won't I fall behind? That fear runs deep. It whispers in quiet moments. It fuels late night work and early morning anxiety. It convinces us that rest is dangerous. But that's not strategy. That's simply survival. We've been taught that momentum is fragile, that if we pause, everything we've built could vanish. But momentum doesn't disappear when you rest. It disappears when you keep moving without direction. Because momentum is more than about speed. It's about rhythm. And rhythm depends on recovery. Think of a Formula One race. Every car moves at breathtaking speed, and not one of them finishes without stopping. A pit stop looks like lost time. From the outside, it's a pause. But from the inside, it's acceleration disguised as stillness. Tires change, Engines cool, adjustments are made. Moments later, the car rolls back sharper, faster, and safer. That's what strategic rest really is. A short pause designed for recalibration. It protects long-term performance. But fear often keeps us from taking that pause. Fear that we will lose our edge. Fear that someone else will pull ahead. And fear that slowing down means we weren't strong enough to keep going. So we push through fatigue, thinking we are proving resilience, when in reality we are burning through our reserves. And that's the paradox. The more we fear falling behind, the faster we deplete the very energy that keeps us moving forward. To break that loop, we need a new kind of cadence, one that rebuilds recovery into performance itself. I use a 3-layer rhythm. 1. Micro resets every day. Short pauses that match your body's focus cycle, about every 60 to 90 minutes. A stretch, a walk, a breathe. Small acts that restore attention before burnout begins. 2. Weekly reviews. A check-in with yourself. It can be the weekend. What moved forward? What got in the way? What needs to shift? It's the reflex stage of the PAR loop in miniature. Done well, it keeps direction clear and energy aligned. 3. Seasonal breaks every couple months. This is a wider zoom out. A few quiet days or mini sabbatical to ask deeper questions. Does my goal still fit? Have my priorities changed? Where do I need to grow next? Together, these layers create rhythm. Contraction and release, action and recovery. Without both, there's no life in the system. You've probably felt the difference. Those days when you push through exhaustion and start making small mistakes. When creativity shrinks to checklists. When you're technically moving but not truly progressing. That's not momentum. That's momentum's shadow. True progress requires pause. Because stopping isn't the opposite of moving. It's part of how movement stays meaningful. Athletes know this. Musicians know this. Even machines know this. Every performance system on Earth builds recovery into its design. So, why do we expect ourselves to operate differently? It's time to redefine what strength looks like. Strength isn't pushing through every barrier. It's knowing when to pause before one breaks you. How would your results change if recovery became part of your performance plan? After finishing the Path to Greatness Walt Disney trilogy, I didn't completely step away. In truth, I couldn't. Part of me was still deep in it, wondering how the trilogy would land, checking the analytics almost every day, watching how people responded. I wanted to see if the work I had poured so much energy into had reached the people it was meant to reach. And beneath that curiosity was another question. Had I pushed too hard? Those back-to-back-to-back weeks of release, the late edits, the long nights, they came with a cost. I started to wonder if that crunch, that relentless pace, had come at the expense of quality. Not of intention, but of balance. That's when I caught myself slipping into a trap we all face after a big push. The reflex to stay in motion, to keep producing, to measure meaning by metrics. I was chasing progress, when what I really needed was perspective. That's when I reminded myself of something I've always believed. Focus on effort, not outcome. Do the work with everything you have and let the result be what it needs to be. Because outcomes are never fully in our control. But energy, discipline, and integrity, those are. Once I remembered that, something softened. I created more space in my days. Not an absence of work, but a shift in focus. I spent time listening to music, reflecting on what I learned from the trilogy, sketching ideas for what might come next. I let my attention drift from numbers to lessons, from reaction to reflection. In hindsight, maybe I should have built in a deliberate strategic break after the trilogy, a true window to reset. But I didn't know how much energy it would take until I was already on the other side of it. And that's part of the lesson too. Sometimes you can't anticipate the cost until you've paid it. So I took a gentler path instead, a partial reset. A few days of slower mornings, evenings without screens, moments to breathe before diving into this episode, the one you are listening to right now. And somewhere in that quiet recalibration, the next spark appeared. And that's how rhythm returns. Not through rigid planning, but through awareness. Because reflection is about noticing when you are sliding into overdrive and choosing to correct course before exhaustion decides that for you. Let's pause here. What small correction could bring your rhythm back into balance this week? Here's the thought I want to leave with you today. You don't lose momentum by pausing, you lose it by running past your capacity. That line came to me during those quiet days after the Disney trilogy, when I caught myself refreshing numbers instead of resting. I realized I wasn't protecting my energy. I was still performing in silence. The truth is, the pause isn't the threat. It's the protection. Because progress doesn't vanish in rest, it vanishes in exhaustion. Every creator, leader, strategist reaches that edge where the mind stays, keep pushing, and the body whispers, that's enough. The brave choice isn't to accelerate, it's to listen. A real reset isn't about stepping away from your ambition. It's about stepping closer to awareness. Momentum is never just movement. It's movement with meaning. And meaning only returns when you have the energy to feel it. So the next time you start to equate rest with weakness, remember, the capacity to pause is the capacity to lead. Protect that capacity. It's what keeps the next chapter alive. Let's bring this full circle. A little earlier, I shared that moment after the Disney trilogy, how I kept checking analytics, wondering if the effort had been worth it, and how I finally caught myself and reset. That moment wasn't about numbers. It was about noticing the difference between motion and momentum. That's the heartbeat of today's conversation. We've explored what happens when drive outpaces rhythm, why constant motion dulls clarity, and how recovery fuels both creativity and courage. We've talked about what real renewal feels like, and how to build small pauses that protect the energy behind your goals. If you take only 3 ideas from this episode, let them be these. First, rest is part of the strategy. It's not what happens after success. It's what makes success sustainable. Second, momentum comes from rhythm, not speed. When you build recovery into your work, you don't lose progress. You amplify it over time. And third, reflection isn't a delay. It's your built-in recalibration, the moment your next direction takes shape. I've learned that firsthand. Without that brief reset, this very episode wouldn't exist. That clarity came from the pause. And maybe that's what each of us needs more often. Not another surge of effort, but a better cadence. Because strategic thinking doesn't live in constant motion. It lives in awareness. It lives in that space where focus meets renewal. So, as you move through this week, create one small pause on purpose. 5 quiet minutes between meetings. A screen-free commute. A single afternoon to breathe and listen inward. and see what returns in that silence. If this conversation resonated with you, I would love for you to stay connected. Join the Compass newsletter for more tools and reflections to help you think and live strategically. And if you'd like to go deeper, you can sign up for the waitlist to the listening room at maison.tst/listening room, our upcoming private space for those ready to reach the next level on their path to greatness. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Your attention, your presence, is what keeps us moving forward. You hold the power to shape your destiny. Strategic thinking is your compass. We will build an amazing future, one thoughtful decision at a time. Until next time, keep getting better every day.